In my 2023 bullet journal setup last week, I hinted that we were doing something exciting for my January Bujo setup, so here we are doing something exciting. I will say that the raw footage for this video was 3 hours long, which isn't that much compared to some other bullet journal channels, which intricate paintings on each page and like lots of details and stuff. But for me, that's like a lot for just a couple pages in my bullet journal. So it literally took me like 2 days to film. So you know I must be dedicated to this setup, but I'm super excited to show you guys my spreads. So let's get right into it. I will say too, just a quick disclaimer, I recently cut bangs. So my hair gets in the video a lot for some reason. So I do apologize for that. But I mean, is it really a video on my channel if there isn't some sort of like production problem going on? I don't think so. So just roll with it and let's jump into the cover page. So right now I am inking in my Japanese temple on the cover page. I said in my video last week that my idea for January and my color palette for January was going to be a lot different than my usual color palette, and I'm just super excited about this theme because I really wanted to emphasize like darker and more saturated colors. If you know anything about my channel, if you've been subscribed for a while, which by the way, if you're not subscribed and you're new, hello, I'm Sophie and you're subscribed to my bullet journaling channel. But I usually do just like very muted colors, especially greens, tans, beiges, and pinks. But this month, I really wanted to play with red and black, and for 2 reasons. For one, for some reason in my head, January is just such a red and black kind of month. I don't know why. Like you would think it'd be like light blue and wintry, but for some reason it just really screams those like dark saturated colors to me. And also because it was the first month of the year and it was in a new bullet journal, I wanted to experiment with some different colors and techniques that I don't really use and I actually have never used in my bullet journal before. And I know that a theme like this, which is like Japanese lantern and temple inspired essentially, is not something you guys have not seen before if you know anything about the bullet journaling niche. For example, I know Amanda Rach Lee did a red lanterns theme a couple years ago for January, and I will say that that probably somewhere in my subconscious inspired me to do a theme like this, but I am trying to create like my own original theme and not just like copy from other people's ideas, which is definitely not a bad thing if you're looking for inspiration, but I did want to try and make something original. So I looked up a lot of pictures on Pinterest of like actual Japanese like temples, not just like drawings of them, and I just tried to like simplify the shapes but just make something really pretty and especially like sparkly. And as you'll see whenever I start coloring it in, I'm trying to blend together a color palette of a dark red and black with this light beige color because of course I cannot let my beiges go. I was really debating on how I wanted to color this cover page. I actually had a planning page, which I'll show on the screen right here, which had like a bajillion different miniature temples as I tested out different color combinations. And for a while, I actually wanted the sky to be dark blue and not black, inspired by this washi tape collection, which I'll talk about later, that had blue washi tapes with red temples on them. However, I decided to use black because I wanted more of a contrast between the red temple and then the sky behind it. Not to mention, by using the black and the yellow for like the roof and the inside of the temple, it almost seemed like the building was glowing from the inside out, like there were like candles or lanterns in the windows, making it shine into the night sky, and I thought that was just a pretty effect. So yeah, I'm super happy with how the cover page turned out, and I hope you guys really enjoy it too. So like I mentioned, I definitely was inspired by these washi tapes from Notebook Therapy that I talked about a couple videos ago because they sent them to me, and I loved all of the beiges. Obviously, that's most of what the color palette of the washi tape was, but there is a small little collection of like dark red and then a certain washi tape with darker blue on it too, and they had like gold designs on them and like temples and like flowers, and it was all super pretty, and that also kind of inspired the theme behind this. So I definitely will be using those washi tapes in this spread. The particular red that was on those washi tapes was a lot more saturated than the one that I was using, and so I ended up having to blend 2 different markers, one from my Crayola Super Tip set and then one from my Tombow brush pen set, and I will definitely name the colors here on the screen if I can find the little numbers for them, but I blended them together to create this dark saturated red. And I will say it was a little inconvenient to have to blend colors every time I wanted to color something in red during this setup, but I feel like the combination not only made it super more saturated, but it also emphasized the glowing effect of the building because for some reason the colors overlaying on each other looked like almost a neon dark red, if that makes any sense. So here I am adding in the washi tape, and as you can see, the red washi tape on the top matches almost perfectly with this color combination of of the two markers laying on top of each other, so I'm really glad that I can create that color match. And with everything on, here is the final cover page, and I will say it's kind of hectic, it's kind of a lot, but I just love all of the sparkles and elements I put in this cover page, and I hope you guys like it too. So like I said, my cover page was definitely the page I was most worried about in this setup. I actually sketched it twice before I was happy with it, but now moving on to the next page, which is going to be the calendar and just like monthly overview. And I will say that after finishing that first page and actually surprising myself with how good it ended up looking, like not to toot my own horn or anything, but I was definitely nervous moving into the second spread and trying to replicate the same art techniques I did on the cover page. But just like usual, I'm just going in with my Sakura Micron pen in the size 01, which I'm using to outline everything in this video, let's be honest. I started using a skinny pen like this in December, I believe, and I've loved the transition between a Tombow Fudenosuke hardtip, which is what I used to outline with, and now this thinner pen, because it makes the drawings look so much more like delicate and detailed when I use a thinner pen and compared to the Tombow like I used to. One motif throughout this video is these like boxes of black that I'm just like putting around the spread. Like I said, I really wanted to emphasize dark colors and like dark saturated sections, and so basically I tried to creatively add in the night sky, but only in small sections because I didn't want to color like the entire background of the page in black. And so by adding, like on this page, a rectangle of black sky on the very left, or it will be when I finally color it in, and like on the cover page how I only had a circle of black and not covering the entire page, it's not only saving marker, which is very important to me because I hate wasting lots of marker on one page and over like saturating an actual piece of paper, but also I feel like it's a design choice that really just like highlights one section of the spread but doesn't overwhelm the entire page with complete black marker streaks. Another part of this page that I really like is adding the lanterns at the top. I didn't know how to add more drawings into the page whenever I was first sketching it, because of course I had the lovely temple here on the left, but then I didn't know how I was going to fill up that extra space at the top, because it's not like I can just draw little buildings just like scattered all over the page. At least personally, that's not really what I was thinking of. I decided to add in these lantern drawings, and I will say that when I end up coloring them, they are not my favorite thing of the setup. It might be actually my least favorite thing is how I colored the lanterns, but I do think putting them in here helped fill up the space at the top, so it was still a good idea. I just need to work on throughout the weekly spreads figuring out how to color them in a way that matches the buildings, but we can talk about that a little more once we get into the coloring stage of this page. The calendar on the right is a half-page calendar, and I honestly don't think I've done a full-page calendar since like July, which is actually crazy to me now that I'm thinking about it, but I don't think I have. To be honest, I don't need that much space for calendars anymore, and that's super exciting because I much prefer a half-page calendar than a full-page calendar just visually. But to be honest, the only things I ever put in here are like future exam dates and color guard rehearsals and possibly birthdays. But it's not so many things that I have like 3 events every day and need to fill each box. It's usually just like 1, maybe 2 things a day. And because I have relatively small handwriting, with a skinny pen, I can fit into these boxes with no problem. So that was the calendar on the right. And then on the left here, I have my goals section, which is at the top section of the page, but I also had a lot of blank space at the bottom. And actually, funny story, that used to be filled with trees because my original idea for this theme was to surround the buildings with green trees and foliage, because that's honestly my best way ever to surround a page is just with trees and foliage. But I decided that the green would definitely clash with the red and black color palette, so I just completely cut that out. And so then I had a whole lot of extra space at the bottom and I didn't know what to do with it, so I brought back a master to-do list for the month. And honestly, I don't know how much I'm going to use this part of the spread, but I think it's still nice to have a space to add monthly to-dos in case for some reason there's like a project that's going to take multiple months or an assignment that I need to finish that's due in a couple weeks kind of thing, and it's really not convenient to put it in a weekly spread to-do list because it's not going to be done by the end of the week. I can just put it over here in this page. And then in the bottom right, of course, I have my next month section, which I don't know why I said of course, because I haven't really put this in many bullet journal spreads before, but I do think it's convenient because whenever you're getting to the end of the month, it's like the last couple weeks and there's something that you have to plan ahead for the future, but you don't have your February bullet journal theme set up yet. Just a little space at the bottom to add some quick dates so that you remember before you create that February bullet journal setup. That's one downside of having a bullet journal and not a planner, is you do have to catch up with yourself so that you can plan in advance. But in case you have a problem like this and you don't have a next month section, That's also what a future log is for. And if you don't know what a future log is, I would definitely recommend you watching my new 2023 bullet journal setup, which was the video before this. And I'm actually super excited about that video because you guys seem to really like it. So if you haven't watched that video, then it will be linked down below as usual. So go check that out. But in that video, I also made a future log, and that's just one way you can also track dates for the future. To finish off this spread, I'm of course adding the washi tape from that Notebook Therapy collection. Like I said, inspired this entire theme. And by the way, if you really like these washi tapes as well, this is not sponsored, but I do have an affiliate link with Notebook Therapy. So if you use the code MINGO, you can get an extra 10% off of your order on their website. So definitely check that out. It does support me at no extra cost to use. So if you want to buy some new stationery, the link to all that will be down in the description box below. So this one part of the spread I absolutely did not like at all, and those were the headers for those 3 sections I was talking about earlier. I did them in dark blue to kind of match the washi tape, but I feel like the blue wasn't nearly dark enough as the washi tape. Not to mention when I use the white gel pens on top of Tombow brush pens, the white sinks into the color. And so I put sticker paper over and redid it with a Tombow Fudenosuke pen, and for some reason those are just so much more opaque whenever I write the white on top of it. So I tried that instead, and it kind of fixed the problem. So it does look a little bit weird with the sticker paper on top, but if you ever make a big mistake in your bullet journal, this is definitely something I recommend because the sticker paper can absolutely come in handy for so many ways. Okay, so now we're moving on to the next spread of the setup, and this is going to be another one where I squished like 4 different things into one spread. So on the left is my expenses tracker and habit tracker. I used to do habit trackers with like 9 different habits in them, but recently I've definitely been condensing them to the point where a couple months ago I literally tracked one singular habit for the entire month. But I'm bringing back the same ones as last month here, so I just have 3 trackers at the bottom, and of course I'll just fill in a box for every day that I do that habit to encourage me to continue doing it. And then at the top is my expenses tracker, which I haven't done since like midway last year, but I wanted to bring it back definitely because during the Christmas season I've definitely increased my spending, and I want to be able to track all of my expenses throughout the month. So new year, you know, budgeting resolutions and all that, I just feel like it was a good time to add an expense tracker back into my bullet journal. And so I just have 3 columns where I'll put the date, the description of the purchase, and the amount, and then total it by the end of the month. Nothing too special, but it does help me basically just track my money. And then throughout the spread, as you can see, I added the lanterns in again, and I feel like I said earlier, this is just a great way to fill up the spread because you can literally add strings of lanterns wherever you want. It's just a problem about me is figuring out how to color them, but again, I'll get better at that throughout the month. And at the very bottom, it's another Japanese temple. I tried to add some variety between the types of drawings that I had so that all the buildings are a little different. And I found all of these pictures just from Pinterest, so you can honestly just look up like images of Japanese temples or Japanese temple aesthetic or whatever, just to kind of like find different examples of the pictures you're looking for. And then I just sketched them out like a bajillion times until I got them to a place that I wanted to and where I could finally ink it in. As I start to color this page, you'll kind of see that I use a lot of tan on this page, and that's because, for example, in the gratitude log, I want to make sure that I can actually read what I'm writing every day, and I didn't really have any other colors in this color palette that were light enough to be legible to write on top with black. However, I feel like although the spread does look really light in comparison to the other ones, I am going to color in the habit tracker boxes in black, and of course the sky behind the temple is going to be black, and so I feel like it will definitely measure out into a darker color palette even though there are a lot of tan sections on this particular page. But overall it's not a big deal because it's more of a functionality spread anyway than a pretty spread, since I have like so many important things going on here. So I feel like it's not going to be that important. As I continue to color in the temple in the bottom right corner, I do want to talk about something cool that I have to do with bullet journaling, which it's kind of a process as you go along and get better at bullet journaling and keep practicing, but the concept of creating a new bullet journal theme, like in quotations, every month is such a cool thing because it's almost like you're teaching yourself to draw something new every month. I mean, not exactly. Sometimes you might like carry things over. Like for example, I think I've drawn these clouds and sparkles in like 4 themes in the past like 6 months, but that's because I love them so much and they add to my little bullet journaling aesthetic. But anyways, I feel like, for example, last month for December, I had literally never drawn a reindeer before in my life, but then I drew a couple deer in my bullet journal setup, and then throughout the weekly spreads, which I also filmed in Instagram Reels, you can see that I also taught myself how to draw different reindeer, different positions, you know, staring at you ominously or like flying across the sky, and just like different ways you can draw a reindeer. And now I almost feel like comfortable drawing one without a reference, which is almost crazy because like reindeer are not easy to draw, but because I spent the entire month teaching myself and practicing how to draw this new creature and like seeing what things are consistent between them, like how their hooves are shaped and seeing what's different between them, like the different antlers, the different body types, it's just a good way to practice drawing them. And now I have that how to draw a deer like in my toolbox, in my arsenal for like, I don't know, next years to come. And same thing as this, like I've never actually like thought hard about drawing a Japanese temple before, but now that I'm spending this month teaching myself different ways to do it, different angles, different techniques in the designs on the building and the way that the roof is shaped, or the different ways that the roofs are shaped rather, and just like practicing with this, it's just a cool way to just see like how you can expand your art abilities. And it's just such a cool thing to think about. So I definitely hope that when you guys are bullet journaling, if you bullet journal, that you also just try to push yourself to learn to draw something new every month. It doesn't have to be something hard, but just something to challenge yourself. That way you have something new in your drawing arsenal, so to speak. And yeah, so I'm just super excited about the weekly spreads for this month and experimenting with different pictures of lanterns and temples. And like I said, I am filming a lot more of my weekly spreads on Instagram Reels, so if you do want to follow me over there on both my personal account and my bullet journaling account, they'll both be linked down below along with all my other social media, so you can go check me out over there. I feel like the spread still looks a little unfinished, but overall it's definitely going to look more finished when I actually fill in the habit tracker and the expenses and gratitude, for example. So with that, I feel like the spread is pretty much done, and let's just go right into the flip through. So here are all of my finished spreads inspired by Japanese temples and this washi tape set from Notebook Therapy. If you like what you saw today and want to see more from yours truly, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, if you want to check out these washi tapes, the affiliate link is down in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you got some good inspiration from it. Comment down below what your January bullet journal theme is, because I would love to know. And if you want to go see my 2023 bullet journal setup, it will be right here on the screen, so go check it out and I will see you over there. Toodles!